Community Services District Board of Directors to order 6:05 p.m. I'd like to announce this meeting is being recorded. Roll call.
Dr. Brandt
Here.
Dr. Plott
Here.
Dr. Hobart
Here.
Dr. Sipos
Here.
Dr. Topliff
Here.
Dr. Deschler
Here.
Here. All right. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Aniscoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. With that, I'm going to move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items they would like to pull?
I'd like to pull 2.3, 2.4.
Okay, 2.3 and 2.4. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion for the balance of the consent agenda? That's
I'll make that motion.
2.1, 2.2, and 2.5. Made by Topliff, seconded by Freeman. Is there any public comment on this motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, or we have to do roll call today, don't we?
Yeah.
Roll call.
Dr. Brandt
Yes.
Dr. Plott.
Here.
That's yes or no.
Oh, yeah.
Or abstain, I guess. Dr. Deschler
Yes.
Dr. Freeman.
Here, yes.
It's okay. It's all good. Dr. Hobart.
Yes.
Dr. Sipos.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously. We haven't had to do roll call votes in a minute, so I don't blame everyone. Okay, item 2.3, the Ventura County Event Medical Standby Contract. Director Deschler.
Yeah, hi everyone. And to those I haven't met, hello. I thought that this might be an opportunity for 2.3 and 2.4 just to review the EMT, how EMTs will be used at the IV safety stations, and any limitations that the county EMSA has requested for us. I was copied on the email earlier this week on on some of the restrictions that are being asked of the IVCSD. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about this. Maybe that'll come later on in a presentation, but I thought it might be helpful, since this was on the consent agenda, to just reiterate how EMTs will be used during Deltopia.
Yeah, thank you. We just figured it out. The email figuring it out just came in at 5:50 today. So we have been working on it up until the clock of the board meeting, but working with the LEMSA, the Local Medical Services Agency. So our EMTs, they're not going to be first aid stations, so they won't be labeled as first aid stations, but they will be a safety tent of some kind. We're figuring out the names still. We're going between a couple different names, but basically what they'd be able to do for most situations, they'll need to call 911. If someone's coming with a heat issue, or they look too intoxicated, they'll need to call 911. For some things, administering a Band-Aid or minor dressing, our EMTs could do that. They can take one vital sign to see where someone's at, but then if it's not a good sign, they need to call 911. So like I said, I just got the email right now, but basically they won't be labeled as first aid stations. They will mainly be calling 911, rerouting calls to 911. They'll be able to handle some levels of service, like, minor dressings or a sprained ankle. They can help somebody but still call 911 to get them back. So we can get that more detail at the next meeting if we want that in writing, but we are going to have a role to play with our stations, and there'll be a walk-up triage on Trigo. So if people do need aid and they want to walk straight up to it, they can go to the one on Trigo, the IV Field Patrol, and ours would be at our event. They'll be at Little Acorn Park, our EMT tents. And yeah, they won't be first aid techs. That was LEMSA's request, is that they're not, and they're based on state law, they're in charge of emergency response, medical response.
Will the folks that are at the at Little Acorn Park, will they direct people to the triage on Trigo?
Yeah, we can either direct them to go to Trigo or call 911.
Okay.
It depends on the situation, yeah.
And then lastly, does this shift in the EMTs, in how IVCSD was going to use EMTs, does that change the budget at all, or is it the same budget?
I think it's the same budget. We wanted to have 2 tents or 2 teams at our event regardless. We are talking with AS on partnering for even an additional one. But now that we know this, we'll figure out the actual needs. I think we'll need the 2 though, regardless, to have 2, across the park.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you, Maya. She was working a lot on ironing this out too.
Director Freed.
I'm sorry, can you clarify? You say one vital sign. It's like, oh, I took your pulse. I'm not allowed to check this other thing. It's I should have chosen pulse first.
One set of vitals. Like
okay.
Not
Okay,
serial
right.
vitals. Yeah, like if they come up and they take your blood pressure, heart rate, and then that's not looking good, they'll call 911.
Okay.
They won't like monitor you for multiple.
All right. Okay.
Take it, sit down,
I really
check it again. Yeah.
Why does LEMSA not want to?
I don't know. I don't have an answer like on exactly why. I think it's just how they want to run the day. And they think I think part of the sense was that, it's easier to have everything go through 911, essentially.
I think the thing that was most shocking to me was the we can't use the term first aid, because I think of first aid as like bandages and simple stuff, right? First aid, I don't think I would ever call 911 for the first aid. Right?
Yeah.
That's
okay. We'll work out the semantics. Right? Yeah, I get it. That's what we said, but we'll see.
I've got a question on this too, I want to second what you said, Jonathan. You guys have really been wrestling with this. This has not been an easy thing to get agreement on. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you for it. If someone is in the middle of the park and they're watching the band and they pass out, what happens? We call 911 right away. Do we let them stay passed out there and maybe get stepped on by other people watching the music? What's the workflow?
We need to ask still. I mean, we're being told that, I think the directive is to just call 911, but I don't know what to do after that. I think it says here, if you call 911 for somebody who needs help, you can, provide supportive care while 911 arrives, but it's defined on what that is.
Okay, so we would interpret supportive care to mean we can get the person to safety.
Like what it says here is if a person presents complaining of weakness or feeling faint, so I guess if they do end up fainting, the EMT can provide supportive care and the EMT shall call 911. So
we have a lot of questions still, and I
we'll
think
figure it out.
Yeah, we need to have another call with them to ask some of these more fine-tuned details, because we don't have those answers yet.
And is this the way that it worked last year?
No, I mean, we weren't connected with LEMSA last year. So this year, part of the improvement is to be looped in with it. So
Improvement.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were actually doing things outside of the medical system last year. So we did need to improve that actually.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for putting your heads together and trying to wrap your arms around this. We're all just trying to make this event more safer. And I'm sure that they understand that too, because that's what they're doing. Any other questions on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move support of 2.3 and 2.4.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Deschler, seconded by Toplick. Any public comment on this motion? Seeing none, let's do roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Director Palat?
Yes.
Director Deschler?
Yes.
Director Freeman?
Yes.
Director Hobart?
Yes.
Director Sipos? Director Toplick?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Now we're going to move to the public comment period. This is the time for any of the members of the public to speak on a matter that is not on our agenda tonight. The board will not take action on any item not on the agenda except as provided by law. Do we have any general public comment? Oh, go ahead, Esteban.
Yes, I did not get a chance to look at the agenda. Is the co-op going to be discussed today?
Yes, that item is on our agenda as the third item.
So then that
Can the
means
person
we'll
talk
have more
louder and
time
identify
to
themselves?
Discuss that.
Yes, we'll have public comment during that item.
Okay.
Esteban, would you mind just speaking louder and identifying yourself? Kirsten couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, yes, my name is Esteban Solis. And should I repeat?
You could just say
Well-
that you were interested in whether the Isla Vista Food Co-op item was on the agenda tonight.
Okay, yes, I was interested if the Isla Vista Food Co-op item was on the agenda tonight, or if this would be my only chance to speak. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Esteban. Okay, we're going to close public comment and move to item 4.1, the recognition of community leadership initiative students.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to Maya to talk about this. It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, of course. So we had our first graduating class of our CLE, Civic Leadership Initiative, the intersection between local government and advocacy. And we have one of our incredible students here today to celebrate. We have Ryan. Hi, Ryan. We had about 15 total graduates at the end of the program that came to all of the classes and received a certificate. And today we are honoring all of them, and Ryan included.
I'm pulling up a picture of them all.
Yeah, thank you.
That was going to be the.
There's more. There's more. We got a lot of really great feedback about the program, about the class, and the course structure. We're really excited to have completed it. Look at that, the graduating class.
Nice.
Ryan, would you like to share anything about your experience? You don't have to, but.
Okay. Yeah, it was really good. It was really cool seeing how much IVCSD has improved things since when I started coming here about 10 years ago to now. I thought a lot of the changes were just, COVID, but no, it's a active effort and work that this whole organization has been doing to improve IV, and I didn't really understand that until I started doing the classes. So it was very beneficial to me, and I think I learned a lot of methods of recognizing problems and how to fix problems in a community setting. So I think that was very helpful, especially since I'm in a weird, I don't know what I'm doing yet mode.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Ryan, and thank you for being part of the first graduating class.
It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And that's all. It was a great class. We all had a really amazing time. We engaged with a lot of both students and long-term residents, and we're really looking forward to potentially doing it again next year.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Maya. And thank you, Ryan and S1 and others that have sat in on those classes. I have gotten to sit in on those classes and just get a little taste of what you all have gotten to learn. You've learned about the operations of the district, the challenges facing Isla Vista, and how you can really put your heads together to try to solve problems and make a difference. And I think that is so crucially important for our community. We have this very unique community where there's so much turnover. And that means that we got to harness all the energy that we possibly have to get folks involved to try to make a difference, whether that's advocacy. And I hope that you will stay engaged with that, whether it's coming and sitting in on our board meetings, whether it's staying connected with job opportunities or other opportunities from the district, or whether it's working with our partner organizations to make a difference. We really appreciate you, and I really have really appreciated how our staff has moved this from the concept of idea into actuality, and I found it incredibly valuable. So thank you for all your work.
Of course, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
The more we're invited, it's just, dead week. They had their celebration on Thursday.
As they should before Death Week. We wish everyone well with with academics. Okay, any public comment on this item? All right, I'm not seeing any. I'm going to close this item, and we're going to say again a big thank you to all of our CLE graduates, the first graduating class. That's really exciting.
Great job, Ryan.
We're going to move to item 4.2.
I think we can go to the next.
Okay, I was gonna. We're gonna go out of order to 4.3, the purchase of community memberships at the Isla Vista Food Cooperative.
Okay, well, I will present some of the, the framework and the plan that we worked out between our ad hoc committee and the Ivy Food Co-op. And I know that they're gonna talk about some other, they're gonna present some other matters about their current state and what's going on. But I'll talk about the memorandum of understanding that we have on the agenda. So, we had our board meeting in the beginning of February. We had a couple weeks, internally working out what we wanted to do in our committee and working with the Ivy Food Co-op. And so this is the, best way we could package it all together to meet all the different ideas and, points that everybody had. So let me share my screen. And so the basic recommendation is that we would purchase 333 Class C memberships for Isla Vista households. It's an equity purchase using our fund balance. The Ivy Food Co-op is one of 2 grocery stores in Isla Vista, the only one with a wide variety of fruits and vegetables for people to purchase. Also related to that is that in our parking study, residents overwhelmingly said both that full service businesses in Isla Vista would be a way to reduce car ownership, or that's why they wouldn't need to use a car, and that to be why they have a car, 35% are driving out of town to buy groceries. So groceries is an integral reason, or it's integral with car ownership and parking congestion in Isla Vista based on our studies or our surveys. So what we're proposing here is that as a means of parking congestion mitigation, we would purchase $50,000 of equity in the Ivy Food Co-op as Class C memberships. And we'd have a process which is not worked out today, which we'll have to work out approve at our next board meeting, where we purchase equity and have memberships that we'd allocate to the community. And so the way we do it is we do half and half, 50% now, 50% in June, so 25,166 memberships now. We'd give the co-op a list of addresses that get the benefit, and they would handle the signups as people go out to the store to claim it. We would prioritize the dense areas with the high parking congestion, and we would exclude board members and director staff from earning this benefit. So, if any of our units get in the lottery or however we choose to do it, we wouldn't get it, just to prevent conflict of interest. Between now and June, we would have a working group between our board and the Ivy Food Co-op to talk about things such as financial stability or sustainability for the co-op, pricing of products, cost drivers, and governance issues, including like the Ivy Co-op governance. And we would also, between now and June, work on an outreach campaign that IVCSD would assist with, but that the co-op would, be the face of. And part of that would be a public forum for Isla Vista residents to share their issues on food access, co-op membership, operational issues. And, based on those 2 processes, our discussion on governance and finance and our community engagement, we would then do the other 25,000 in June based on that result. And then the fiscal impact of this, it costs us $50,000 in cash, but it's equity. So we're not losing the money technically. It is money that we can get back if we chose to discontinue the program, or if anything happened to the co-op, they've said they can reimburse their members. So it is an expense, and or it's an expense in cash, but it's not an expense completely because it stays on the balance sheet as $50,000. So yeah, I attached here the co-op's bylaws and their annual report. and the MOU. But this is just summarizes what the MOU says. So I'll turn it over to, I don't know, I guess I'll take any questions on this and then turn it over to Lisa to talk about what they're.
Yeah, and before we go to questions too, I want to give the opportunity to, I know we had an ad hoc committee that was working on this. Any members of the committee have anything they want to add to the report?
One thing that I felt a little bit passionate about is really trying to get more local residents involved on the Ivy Food Co-op board in that aspect of it. Because I know that we had mentioned that there's not really many local residents that are like currently participating, and how I just felt like that would be a good next step as like a more broad thing of just trying to like get more people involved and aware of it. So that's something that I want to continue to work on with it as well as the memberships. Separately.
Thank you, Director Hobart. Okay, seeing none else, any questions from the board on the staff presentation? Go ahead, Director.
You mentioned, I mean, not that we would want to, but you said that we could recover it at any time, the money we spend. How does that process work?
Yeah, we still need to do it in line with the co-op bylaws.
Yeah.
There's like a process in there for how you retrieve your memberships and your equity, but it's in there. You know, we'd have to give a notice period to them, and I could pull up the provision in the bylaw right now, but it is, you know, that is part of the MOUs that we can ask for the money back. And you know, let's say it wasn't working at all and we needed the cash, like let's say we lost our cash and you know, we are having issues, we could retrieve the cash as needed.
Any other questions from the board? Director.
Kirsten. Yeah. Two questions. So the first question has to do with the purchase in 2 installments. Are you doing that as kind of a market test to see whether or not this is something that the community wants? Is that why it's broken into 2 groupings of money?
Yeah, I think the discussion in our committee was to, yeah, I think market test maybe is part of it, and also to let the other processes play out in terms of getting more understanding in governance and finance issues, as well as doing the outreach campaign and allowing the public to have more, you know, the residents of Isla Vista to participate more in sharing feedback. You know, there have been a couple co-op meetings, but not a lot of residents attended those, or as well, like the majority demographic, like students. So our committee wanted to make sure that we involve more people in the conversation.
Okay. And then I want to ask a hard question, and I don't mean any disrespect to the co-op, but I want to ask the question, and that is, the co-op is struggling financially, and I'm not sure who just asked a similar question about getting funding back in the event that we wanted it back, but I just want to make sure that this is, that if in fact the IVCSD does want this money back, that the money will be there. And I guess, are we, because the co-op is signing this MOU, that is essentially that they are agreeing to fund the money should we need it back?
Yeah, I think we can have you guys talk about how that works and the equity and in building and things like that.
Yeah, I can answer. Where should I stand so that she can hear me remotely?
I can hear you.
As long as you speak up,
Okay.
you can hear me anyway.
I can stand closer. I don't know if that helps. So my name is Lisa. I serve on the Isla Vista Food Cooperative Board of Directors. I am currently the serving president. I'm also currently the interim general manager. So to answer a broader question about our situation, and that is that we are long-term residents of Isla Vista. We have a mortgage on our property. Our property has appreciated in value. So while we have solvency because of the value of the building, we don't have liquidity because we don't have cash, right? So this investment from the CSD would help us with our cash. But for all owners who have equity in the co-op, all of them are equity deposits. And if something were to happen to the co-op, if it needed to close or dissolve or any of those things, that building would be sold, and there's enough in the building to pay back all of our current debts, all of our current equity, and have a little bit of cushion. So every member's equity is currently safe with the co-op. We just don't have that money in the bank account to pay. We would have to sell off assets. So that's sort of where we're at with that. Someone asked about having more Isla Vista residents on the board of directors. Because of our situation that we're currently in, sort of dealing with the on-the-ground financial crisis, we would normally be in our election cycle right now, and we've chosen to push it back 90 days to give us a little more breathing room. And with that, it gives us the opportunity to expand our call for candidates and really reach out into more of the student community and more of the Ivy resident community. I mean, we typically always have some, but if you cast a wider net, then you can often get better people. And so if, as part of the ad hoc working committee, if we wanted to include some of the work from the election committee within that and have that feedback and have that support, that's absolutely something we could do. Your question was also about equity. So maybe I covered both of those.
I think it was about how do we get
How do you get it back? I will be honest. So right now the board has enacted an equity refund freeze through the rest of our fiscal year, which is through September 30th. So as of October 1st, anyone who put in an equity reimbursement form would get paid on October 1st, because we just wanted to stabilize our situation for the rest of the fiscal year, just in case. So we didn't have a run on the bank, as you say, though we've only had 2 people withdraw in the last couple of months.
And so that freeze would extend to us as well.
Yeah. So because every owner of the co-op has the same rights and the same responsibilities. That's how it's laid out in the bylaws. The reason that there are Class A and Class C ownerships is simply the distinction between a Class A is an individual and a Class C is a group or an organization. So, for example, the student housing cooperatives, when they have a membership that is for a house in particular, that is a Class C. If there are other Ivy businesses that have a membership stake in the co-op, they would be a Class C. But myself as an individual, I'm a Class A. But all of the requirements that there are for membership, which is essentially equity, and all of the rights of membership, which is effectively voting, is one membership, one vote. So in all those other ways, they are the same.
Okay.
So what is the Class C membership? Because that's the one we're buying, right?
Yeah, so that's for groups and organizations.
Groups.
And it just means that when we organize it slightly differently. And so the way we had discussed it with staff is that it would be identified by the physical address. So let's say you live at 6575 Sabado B. That is the name associated with that membership. And then whomever lives in the household who come to claim it to be the contact person, they would be the contact person. So much in the same way the student housing cooperatives work, or Yoga Soup, there's one staff person who has it identified on there.
I thought I heard you say Class B, but you were saying Class C as in cat.
Yeah, it's A and C.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was
No,
really
it's
paying attention.
fine. It's a little funky because B is something else entirely that isn't the same.
Okay.
It isn't a membership.
So,
Okay.
so just to follow up, Lisa, am I okay talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry if I talk
I
over
just
someone.
I will cut you off.
Perfect.
I do have a
Okay.
question. You have a presentation that you wanted to give us too.
I mean,
Okay.
sort of. I feel like there's a lot of questions, and I really
Yeah.
want to make sure that we have time for questions.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because my job to try to keep some order here. So go ahead, Director Deschler, with your question.
Okay, the question I was going to ask is, so you have a liquidity issue right now, but the way to recoup equity is in the sale of your property. So really, it's not viable to get the funding back unless the Ivy Co-op essentially has to sell its property.
That's the worst case scenario. It's also viable to get the funding back by improving our business situation, by improving
okay, I see.
overall sales and overall participation.
Got it, okay.
So that's sort of the start of how I was going to address it. So the situation that we're having right now is that the last 2 fiscal years have seen double-digit sales declines for us in Isla Vista, whereas at the same time we've had costs increase. Obviously payroll, because payroll always goes up, but more significantly insurance, cost of goods, the kind of things that go up no matter what. We've also seen a number of situations that are affecting the demographics within Isla Vista, and most acutely the student population. Student population currently, I think it's 20% enrollment in EBT. And those are the ones who actually achieve getting it, not just everybody who's applied. So we see a high volume of EBT purchases go through our register, and we understand that the cost of housing affects all the other money that people have left as well. So people are very budget conscious. We also find that people who join the co-op as members, owners, same thing, are kind of more loyal shoppers. Our membership program is one where when you pay in your equity, so you do receive the ability to vote on anything that comes before the membership, such as serving people who want to serve on the board of directors. And you also become part of our owner benefits program. The owner benefits program is a really simple 1% credit back at the register loyalty program. So the more you shop, the more money that you save, because it builds up as you shop. And then when you go through the register, the cashier will say, hey, you got $3.65 in points. Do you want to take that off the top? So if the CSD is funding memberships to encourage people to shop locally and get in the door, those loyalty points do belong to the people who are functionally using it. So those people get a discount on their groceries in that way. We also have additional member sales and deals, which are typically points that are multiplied. Like right now, I believe it's 5 times points on yogurt, which would be a 5% discount on yogurt. We have the ability to order basically anything that we can get from our distributor by the case. So if you are someone who you're going to drink 12 cans of mate, or you're going to eat 12 cans of beans, you can order by the case. And so rather than buying and having the per each price, you would have the case price, which is typically 5% or so less off of the shelf price, and owners get an additional 15% off the case. So for owners who are thinking ahead and thinking, well, this is a shelf stable thing, they can get those deeper discounts. And then additionally, what we encourage everyone to do is to try and shop as locally as possible. That's what our buyers are intending to do. So we have locally sourced produce as much as we can, and other products, which also means that the folks who are within our area can sort of be uplifted by the work of the co-op. A lot of our workforce lives in Isla Vista, so we would love to keep them all gainfully employed. We are a good employer, and we want to continue to be a good employer. The fiscal change that we've seen, if we had a 15% increase in sales, we would be breaking even. If we had a 20% increase in sales, we would be making a little bit of money, a little bit of cushion, building back some of those things. If we had a 30 or 40% increase in sales, we would probably lower our prices, because they wouldn't need to be that high, because we'd be seeing that volume. So because we're not a nonprofit, but we are a mutual aid organization. So by definition, we try to have low profits, because we don't need to make a lot. There's no money that's leaving the community going up and out of the co-op. So if we're seeing a lot of use by the community and our margin does not need to be as high as it is, we would lower it. And I assume other businesses in Isla Vista, and certainly Albertsons and Costco and Trader Joe's and Target, would not do that. So that's sort of the basics of where we're at. As I mentioned, if we had these memberships, it would encourage people to come to the co-op. Most of the shoppers that we see come by foot or bike or scooter. or skateboard, or even the bus across the street. We have a small parking lot which people use, but most IB residents, why would you lose your one good parking space in front of your house to go do that? So we definitely encourage people to come in whatever carless way that they can. We have a patio that's available to anyone. You don't have to necessarily have bought something, but you can spend time on our patio. So we have some community space as well. And we just try and maintain a space that is comfortable and meets the needs of the community. We definitely have a mindset of what we think is important to be on our shelves. But if shoppers in Isla Vista decided that they really need this item, we would bring that item in, even if it weren't necessarily something that our merchandising manager thought this would be something, because we're here to fill the need of being that community grocer. And so I would, as part of the working group, I would love to get some information about what people are leaving Isla Vista for. When they travel, what is the thing that's making them get in a car and go to Costco or Trader Joe's? We have a number of items on our shelves that are co-op basics, which are lower than regular margin. And all of those are like Trader Joe's price competitive, $1.99 pound of pasta. I think it's $3.65 jar of organic pasta sauce. We've got the cans of beans are $1.49. We currently have cage-free Rosemary Farm eggs, which are local, and I think those are $10.99 for 12. I'll have to double check it. So we do our best to maintain prices that are reasonable for the people who are here. We all are a small organization, but the more business that we see, the better our margins are as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Paints a very good picture of where you're at as an organization.
Yeah, okay. And I can sit or sit,
You-
or if
please
we have more questions.
Feel free. And any
I don't know
other
where to be.
questions to the board? We've kind of talked a lot, and I think we've had some previous discussions here. Did you guys see
One
ahead.
question. You mentioned being able to bring things into the co-op that maybe aren't typically sold. And specifically for me, like, is that something that's feasible? Because I can say, like, personally, I shop at the co-op some, but I have to go to Trader Joe's or places like that to get like ground beef, chicken, turkey bacon. And I know you guys do sell ground beef and turkey bacon, but and then there's also like, I think one spot that has chicken, but every time I've gone that's been sold out, and I feel like people need kind of like a range of options like for those kinds of things. So I can say, like, at least personally, and some of the people I know shop at other places like Trader Joe's specifically for that.
No, that's great feedback. So specifically when it comes to fresh, not frozen chicken, what we're seeing is just not quite enough customers to keep it on the shelves before it goes bad. So if we had more demand, if we had more people who were coming to the co-op for it, then we would absolutely stock it. And obviously we try and do our best with sourcing and ensuring that they're every day. But you're right, there's a standard pound of ground beef that we always have, fresh or frozen. A lot of the meat is frozen because that gives it more lifetime for people's freezers and people's fridges. But that's absolutely an area where we could expand if we started to see a little more traction with some of those items.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up public comment on this item. If you'd like to speak, either raise hand online or give me a little wave in the audience. Go ahead, Esteban.
Yeah. My name is Esteban Solis, for anybody who might not know me. And I'm relieved to be here and speak about this issue again. Last time, I think I was a bit upset and expressing opposition to moving forward on this. But today, I feel a lot better. I got a chance to run into Lisa, and we spoke. And very quickly, within 2 weeks, I wasn't sure how seriously she was going to take me, but very quickly, within 2 weeks, she hired 2 new staff, or they hired 2 new staff that answers all the questions and concerns that I was having about the food co-op. Definitely steering it in the right direction very quickly. And I'm very happy, very impressed. This super quick action, like devastatingly quick action that they took to hire those 2 new employees. I was concerned about not only the work ethic, but the way that some customers were being treated at the food co-op. And these 2 new employees, I have already seen them lead by example. And it almost seems like in some aspects, these new employees are going to be training the older employees. So I'm very happy that these changes happened and are definitely giving the food co-op a better base, a good sense of diversity and good customer service and a good humble work ethic.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any discussion on this? Thoughts? Director Topliff.
I'd just like to express an appreciation for the Isla Vista Food Co-op. I've certainly been shopping there since the 1970s, although I'm not helping your customer base very much these days, I'm sorry to say. But it's been very interesting to hear all the testimonials about how important it remains to the community and everything that you're doing to try and make it be a relevant organization as well as deal with the economic realities. So I'm really happy that we are able to partner with you and help you to get over this hard time.
Thank you, Director Topliff. Any other comments from you, Dr. Sivas?
Well, a question for the board and like general manager. What are ways we could what are things we can do to make sure that this program is somewhat successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be really engaged with the people who get the benefit. So we'll have, the 166 households that get it, we want to decide as quickly as we can who's going to get it and pick them, by the beginning of spring quarter, which we can do if we approve it at our next board meeting. And we'll have to just reach out to them and make it clear what the benefits are, and we'll have a process to judge the success internally too. I was thinking it's hard to judge it because it's just you can't say, did they get rid of their car in 1 quarter, right? But we can go meet with them at the end, do some interviews, talk with the people who used it. I think we can track can we track their grocery?
Yes, if you
somehow
scan your card or identify
Yeah.
your account, you can track.
So we can see if the members, our members used more groceries than usual, than average. So we have different ways we can check it, but we'll have to just work really closely with those 166 households. And it does say in the MOU, we are, it's not, if you don't use it, if you don't claim it, we can turn that over pretty fast. I mean, we'll maybe put that into it that, if you don't get it in a week after we've let you know, we'll switch over to the next person. So yeah, it'll be tough. It's a 3-month range, but I think we'll be able to see something in that 3 months.
Thank you for that. Any other thoughts from the board? Director Frank.
Wanted to, it's indirectly in the staff report, but I wanted to explicitly say as me that something I'm particularly, I was happy to see that we came up with a way of connecting this with the various other endeavors that we have as a district and the various powers and making it so that the food co-op, it's not merely that we are handing money to the food co-op. We are handing money to the food co-op because it helps the goals that we have very directly. So I'm very happy to support this because of that.
If I could, just in response, this is Eric and this is Neil. These are 2 other members of the co-op board who are here tonight, wanna get together and chat later, just so you see them.
And Bill is on Zoom.
Oh, and Bill's on Zoom, great.
There you go. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Director Deschler, I saw you have your hand up. I can barely see it, but I do see it.
I purposely decided not to interrupt everyone. So first of all, I just wanted to really give a huge appreciation and acknowledgement to the folks that worked on coming up with this idea, the MOU. It's just so amazing when, and I think this is something that IVCSD does so well, is we see a problem and we creatively think about how to address that problem. And it's just what makes this entity so special. So thank you to staff. Thank you to the board members that worked on this. I just think this is really just an amazing example of how government does good things for the community. So that's my little political science hat for the day. But also I wanted to say, I think it's going to be very interesting to determine the dense areas of Isla Vista for parking, because don't we have like 100% overparked? Aren't we 100% overparked everywhere?
Yeah, not, well, almost everywhere. So we'll have to figure that out. I think
Yeah.
we'll have the numbers and how we judge that, but we do at least have all the data we need.
Yeah, we have good data. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, I have absolutely zero doubt that that with our community engagement team, we could really help to promote the co-op. I think that is another thing that the IVC does really well, is community engagement. And so if that is a component of this this proposal, I think that is amazing, because I think we can do a really good job at really touting the benefits of the program and of the co-op. And so I also just wanted to say to Lisa, you have a really hard job. You have 3 really hard jobs. And I just thank you for all the work that you're doing and your commitment to being part of IV, even in the face of really difficult times.
Thank you, Director Deschler. I want to share thanks to you, Lisa, in particular, and the entire board and the staff that make the co-op run. I feel, I go there every couple of days. My strategy is, bring a small bag, fill it up with as little as I possibly need, because I know I could go there tomorrow and get anything that I forgot today. You have dealt with so many challenges over the last years. I took some time this weekend to dive into just the board meeting minutes to see, wow, financial challenges, rising costs, personnel turnover, securing lines of credit. It's everything that you could possibly think of under the sun. And for me, this and our imperative for doing this is that this is aligning our investments with our organizational values. We have this fund balance, and right now it's not like it's not being invested. It's sitting in the county treasury fund where it's doing these pooled investments and investing in other businesses. This helps to invest the money locally. And it is not lost on me. We've talked about it a lot as a board. If we were to lose the last remaining full service grocery store in this community that offered organic, or not even just organic, but that's plus local produce at all, we would meet the definition of a food desert in this community. At a time when we are trying to support people living a car-free lifestyle to address the parking challenges, I cannot conceive of the situation getting even worse for people essentially needing a car to get large grocery loads. So there's so many reasons why I'm supportive of this. And I too am very thankful to the folks that served on the committee to get your mind wrapped around how we could support, how we could make it work to fit the goals of the district, and how we could support a really cherished and important community institution. So I will be enthusiastically supporting this. Any other comments from board members?
I just wanted to say, I'm excited to be working on this and to be able to, put out this MOU and like really see some tangible efforts towards helping, but it definitely only begins with that. I'm really excited to be working on community outreach on it because that was something that I really cared about when we discussed it at a previous board meeting and then the ad hoc and everything. Like, it is very, very important that we do community outreach and not, just purchase the memberships. And I think that those two things together can make a really big difference. And I think, if we put enough into this, there could be a culture shift in IB of people, staying local with things like this. I think that it would be really nice to see that like in the years to come, with people being incentivized to not have their cars up here and to be going to places like the food co-op to get their groceries and as like to bring the community closer together. Because I think right now I've definitely started to realize some of the separation within the community, and I think that helping Ivy Food Co-op is a great way to start bridging those gaps and bringing people back together. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, anything else from the board? I think we're at the place we're ready for a motion. Does anyone want to make it?
I'll move to approve the MOU with the Isla Vista Food Co-op.
Okay, motion by Topliff. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Sipos. Let's go to roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Director Deschler,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Hobart,
Yes.
Director Palat,
Yes.
Director Sipos,
Yes.
Director Top.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you everyone for being here and excited for our continued partnership.
Thank you.
Okay, and so it sounds like we'll have another item back either at the next regular board meeting about allocation.
Yeah, because that's an internal decision for us.
Yeah. Okay, excellent.
We'll sign in second. Sydney's getting.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay. Let's move to item 4.2, revenue discussion for 25-26.
All right. We kind of did this a little bit at the retreat, but this is just a small update. I have good news on our revenue. I just got the news, which is that we had predicted $65,000 were owed by Edison. It's actually 97,000. So
That's a pretty big.
we're back in the black for the estimated actuals for the end of the year. We're now like barely above not having a deficit. So this is really good news. So the goal for today is to kind of choose our primary scenario to project the 25-26 budget. We don't have to finish that today, but that's what this presentation is going towards. Finance committee can get more in the weeds and set that number, but we can get board direction. So our revenue details, we get this is from the retreat, right? We have our utility tax, our UCSB contribution, our reservations from our community spaces. We withdraw from our reserves. We make some sales. We have some sponsorships. Our 24-25 revenue recap, we budgeted $1,374,000. Our estimated actuals, well, we have two scenarios for estimated actuals. Now with the updated Edison number, it's either 4.5% growth, which is only using the money we've got so far, and then the predictions from last year to map out the rest of the year. Or if we take the numbers of how things have been growing so far this year and apply them to the last 4 months of the fiscal year, we can predict we might end up with 6% growth this year. So that's really good. I mean, that's a lot different than where we were at the retreat, but that $30,000 does actually impact our predictions significantly. So that's where we're at for ending this year. This is just the visual. Utility is the main thing to discuss. And then the details here, we have 4 different scenarios we can look at for next year. Usually we do the most conservative, actually, is what we usually do, which is no growth prediction. So we just say it's going to be the same as this year, as the previous year. We can though map out, there's then 3 other ways. This is the first time we do this, is looking at different ways to budget for next year. We can think about cautious 2% growth next year. That's in line with what it's gone so far. We're using only actual revenue numbers and using the growth per utility. So we're not applying like a blanket, the tax has been growing this much every year method. It's each utility, how does it grow each year? And then, because the sewage one doesn't grow. I didn't go into the details here, but essentially that's what it is. Cautious growth. We can look at optimistic growth, which is, what's realistic, right? Like that's probably what will happen, but we just never budget for it. And that's 4%. And there is a potential, because it's happening this year, most likely 6% growth next year, which is aggressive. So these are the different scenarios. And based on the same numbers we had from, I have the graph representation here, but just so you can see it easier, this is what the deficit / ending fund balance will be based on the different scenarios right now. So if we use this year's budget for revenue, we will be negative 170. And if we, assume the higher growth of the tax, we can have it be really only negative 86,000 in the deficit for next year. And then I'm not going to go in the charts. This is just appendix, so you can see it visually, but it's a chart of these slides. But yeah, that's where our revenue is at. It's better than where our retreat said it was, because we've got new information now that have just significantly shifted things.
Yay.
Yeah. But no, but we do need to at least say, are we going to be planning for the worst case scenario or a middle, more optimistic, less optimistic scenario? So that's maybe one thing we can talk about, but otherwise it's still going to be a deficit next year, right? Of some kind. It's not completely resolved, but it is a better situation.
Okay, thank you for staff report. Questions from the board? Director Freeman.
When you say planning on it, this is feedback to finance committee.
Feedback to finance committee.
Okay.
Because they're creating a budget model, but they need to, use the board's direction to make that model. Got it. Yeah.
Is there, you list these scenarios of 0, 2, 4, and 6. Is the scenario 1.5 possible with a 3% growth? Like, are we?
It is. I mean, technically it is.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah. We could. I'm just saying this is like the easy way to break it up, right? Like we have data that will map these numbers out. These aren't made up numbers. They're
just to clarify too, the deficit spending is all spending out of reserves for appropriate expenses to be charged to reserves.
Yes, I mean technically, like it's undesignated reserves still for the most part, so it is appropriate based on whatever the board says. We do have 2 larger reserves that are like the strategic reserves, and the purpose of them is to deal with changes in the utility revenue, which is technically what's happening to us right now. Or what really happened was what happened last year, where the gas revenue plummeted to, it's lower than 2019. And that's the problem, is one of our main sources went backwards in time 4 years. And so that's what the strategic reserve is technically for unforeseen things, because you would never think that that would happen to your revenue. But it's limited. Yeah, it's one time. Runs out. But yeah, these scenarios are not final, right? Like as more data comes in, as the year advances, we'll start fine tuning these. It's just that we start from somewhere now and we meet at some equilibrium in June and August as we get final numbers. We have to plan around a number.
I've got a question. Tell me more about the idea of having estimates for each utility. Is that?
Yeah. So basically what I did is, I looked at each utility's growth and average growth rates, and then I used that to apply the prediction instead of using the aggregate growth rate, which has been like 17%. Well, that doesn't really it's not a good number to use, and we've never used it, right? Like we've never applied growth to our tax prediction. We always use the most conservative. But if we were to do growth, that's how I'm doing it, is the electricity tax, I looked at how it grew from year to year to year. And okay, well, it has an average growth rate. So that's the growth we're gonna use for what it might be next year. Then the same for the gas, same for the water. I mean, for the gas, we're using different years, right? Because we can't just, one year is like negative 40%. And so the different scenarios are like, it's described, but the different scenarios are how much of the actuals versus projections for the taxes we're using. So to get the growth rate for each individual utility.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did try to write it out in the narrative there, but I know it's confusing, but it's per utility and using different sets of data to get different amounts of fine tuning versus, conservative versus more aggressive.
Is there a way to consider external factors like, we're going to get this report about this new county waste ordinance, and I've been wondering if that will impact the level of trash service that customers are paying for and therefore our receipts.
Yeah, I don't know how to plan for that right now. We could keep trying to do that, but yeah, this is not external factors. This is just historical factors. But we would want to do that. And we're doing our audits right now. So that will maybe change everything here.
Director Freed.
Are some of the, I think I know the answer to this one. Are some of the utilities higher in volatility than other places?
The gas.
I could see us doing the thing you did where you broke it down and then did the predictions per thing, but then we use for higher volatility utilities, we use more conservative estimates, and for lower volatility utilities, we use more aggressive estimates.
That's essentially what I've done here in all these scenarios. In all of them, it's the only one that's volatile is the gas. So for the gas, I actually didn't even change it in all these scenarios.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I changed about 10,000 a year, which is almost nothing.
Got it.
Yeah, so I did think about it. It's not always going to be the same problem, but trash and water and electricity had predictable paths.
Any other questions from the board on revenue? Okay, let me open up public comment. Any public comment on revenue report? Okay, seeing none, back to the board. I'll just share kind of my philosophy on this, is that I think it's good that we try to break out the revenue estimates by utility, because as has been mentioned, they are different. Some of them might be easier to predict too than others. Like, Edison has a rate schedule that has different rates for different times throughout the year. And then Central Coast Community Energy is pegged to Edison at 3% less. So it's easier, I think, to figure that out. Natural gas would be hard, but maybe there are ways that we can utilize what the global markets are doing. Sounds way more complicated, but to come up with something, I wanted to be grounded in the reality of what those figures say, and I don't think it's necessarily helpful for us to sort of reflexively just say that we think that there's going to be no growth because we're worried about what would happen if there was no growth. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on the direction on this.
It would be a big change because we've always done no growth, but might be for the best. We've always been surprised that the growth does happen almost each time. And then we don't budget for it. So it's almost an artificial deficit potentially, depending on how it's not, right? It's artificially larger is what I should have said.
Director Freeman.
Given that we already maintain reserves and we take money and allocate it into reserves, I feel like in some sense that there's a little bit less pressure on this decision. Like let's say, for example, that we chose the most conservative version of this, the 0% growth level. Well, what the real effectively is just doing is it's just paying more money into reserves this year and then we'll spend it the next year.
Right, shifting when it happens.
Yeah, just shifting when it happens in a sense. And like in the same way, it's like depending on how large our reserves are, if we were to take the most aggressive version of this, if we're able to pay for a year of lower than expected growth using reserves because our reserves are so big, like, you know, it depends on, like, you know, if our reserves were so small, then we'd have to use but like from that perspective, I mean, like, I think it would just be easy to choose the 0% conservative one because I don't think it really affects us in the long term. Like if you don't care so deeply year to year, but you just care about what our district is able to do with money over time, I think it's the same. But I also think that it's fair to assume some growth. And so like, I mean, I would be supportive. I mean, I probably wouldn't. The word aggressive almost makes me think I should vote for the one that says aggressive, but
I was just
would
using
be,
what
yeah,
they use in like investment
yeah.
stock portfolios.
but like, you know, from that perspective though, you know, there's also the case that, like, you know, whoever is going to, you can imagine, for example, a news article is going to be written about, like, you know, the IB Community Service District has decided to be cautious or has decided to be aggressive or has decided to be optimistic. I would be supportive of being cautious or optimistic. I don't think we need to be conservative, and I don't think
You want to be called aggressive.
yeah. But I also I think there's less pressure on this from a planning perspective than maybe
I get it.
Thanks for those thoughts, Director Pruitt.
I have a question.
Director Clough.
With the reserve, does it only ever function as a buffer for deficits, or is there like, would it ever be used to help like fund larger projects that wouldn't be fully allocated for in a typical year's budget?
Yeah, so we've actually done that. So we've actually mainly used it for that.
That's
only more recently we've had like to cover a deficit. That's been more recent usage. So we used 50,000 of the reserves to invest in the patio improvements for the community center, for example. We have 250,000 or 300,000 in the reserve right now for the parking startup program. So that's accounted for. So we have like a capital reserve. It's 350,000. That's just for, you know, investing in improvements.
Yeah. And so that's what I mean. I would be like, if that was, assuming that money is just like, it is being like, assuming we do use it like somewhat frequently. I mean, maybe not frequently, but like for like these big improvements, then I would be like, I would see sense in a conservative budget proposal, because knowing that this, like, any overflows would then go towards these larger projects that we would want.
Yeah, the way it's played out usually is, you know, we do the conservative one always, and then we budget to that. So like, let's just say $1 million. So we budget for $1 million, and then we get the 6% growth. So now we have $1,060,000, but we only budgeted to spend $1 million. So we get that bonus 60,000. And that's almost how we built our reserves over years. There were other reasons why it happened, but we did under budget our revenue by being conservative because we had no idea. It's not that we didn't want to predict it. We probably couldn't have predicted it until we've had now 8 years of data. So yeah, that is how we even built our reserves, is we under budgeted revenue, got extra, and put it into reserves.
Yeah, so that seems like a fun system to me.
Any other thoughts from the board? I'll share one more thought. Although we're talking about, you know, the revenue estimate, I think it's important because this kind of overshadows everything. And you put it right up on the screen. That's exactly what I'm thinking of, which is that, you know, we do have somewhat of a structural deficit. It's not anything that is cause for hitting the panic button, but under all of these scenarios, we still will be carrying a deficit because previous boards have made the financial decisions to put money into fund balance and into strategic reserves. We will be able to weather these things from an organizational perspective, knowing that the community continues to desire to see more from services, knowing that we may be embarking on parking enforcement, knowing that there are other needs at the community center and other places. To me, it makes sense for us to start thinking about what we talk about, the retreat of trying to diversify our revenue so that we are not as prone to these random shifts in the global liquid natural gas markets, you know, and to do that, to also bring in more revenue for the needs that we have. I think that's a broader conversation that is really going to have a really intense amount of community involvement. But it is something that is hard for us to ignore, I think, as decision makers here. Okay, any other thoughts? I think those of us on finance committee have received some good feedback about the direction. Is there anything else that you want for us to more clarity?
That's good.
Okay. Okay. Well, with that, then we will close the report on revenue, and I lost my agenda. We will move to 4.4, formation of ad hoc committee for community outreach.
Oh, well, Director Hobart had an idea at the last board meeting, and we met and talked about it, of how we can get the board more involved in community engagement and meeting with, you know, other community members and leaders. So that's what this would be, is to put together a board ad hoc to work on that with staff. So we'll prepare a list of organizations and leaders and names that board members can sign up for, and then the board committee can drive that process of getting the rest of the board to join and participate, and, you know, kind of put together what the plan is. What are we talking about? How are we going about this? But I thought it was a good idea because there's just so many different groups, and we can't get to all of them, and we do a good mass communications and individual communications, but it does come differently coming from a board member meeting with another community leader. So.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction. Do you want to speak at all about sort of your vision for this?
Yeah, so we kind of impromptu talked about it when we were discussing Deltopia, and we were kind of just talking about how it kind of feels like the community in Isla Vista is a little bit disconnected, and a lot of people have, you know, feelings and things that they're passionate about, and a lot of groups have things that they're passionate about, and sometimes we're not fully aware of those things to be able to better serve everybody in the community. So my idea was essentially creating a list of organizations and groups in Isla Vista and UCSB that are really involved in the community, and us reaching out and meeting with them and just trying to learn more about those groups and their direction and what they're passionate about, projects that they're working on, and then also to share about the IVCSD and what we're doing, what we're passionate about, mainly to create stronger connections with those groups. And also, I think that through that process, not only will the IVCSD be more well-known, but I think that it could, in the future, potentially bring us some really cool things to work on. If we have really strong connections with people in IB, I think that they'll come to us when they have ideas and projects and things. So that was kind of my idea, was basically trying to, it can be casual settings, it could be, you know, meeting for coffee and just talking about what we do, what they do, things like that. But just trying to increase the board's presence as well, because I think that being able to see board members in person and talk to them and put a name to the board is helpful. And then specifically with students, we had talked about how with some student-led groups, seeing that there's students on the board and seeing that it's, you know, this is an organization that is dedicated to the students in Isla Vista. I mean, we're dedicated to everybody in Isla Vista, but being able to see that there are students here could also help with those interactions as well. So that was kind of my idea that we had discussed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think we kind of all had a really good conversation about this, and how I shared my experience of when we first started back in 2017. Jay and I, and Jonathan too was there in the audience, so we'll remember, we were, number one, we had a large number of students on the board, just like we do now. And as we embarked on trying to get ourselves started up, the high level of community participation was something that was really very helpful. And there were very strong bonds that only grew as we went through the process of starting up and eventually passing Measure R to have funding. And that really came from those strong relationships. So I really like the idea of getting ourselves sort of self-organized to systematically try to build more relationships out there in the community. I think it's a really good one, and I'm glad that that it sounds like you're volunteering to be on the committee. Other thoughts from board members at all? Okay, well, I'll ask just a poll of who would be interested in serving on something like this. Okay, I've got 2. And I know I would be interested too in terms of helping, and you know, if it was something that you wanted to do, Director Plot, I think that you would be, I would defer to you, since this, I think one of the big benefits of it is student to student relationships.
It does seem like you want to do it though.
You've got a lot, you definitely, no one would blame you for wanting to stick to the assignments that you have. So,
Yeah. I think I have enough committees, and it seems like you are pretty passionate about this yourself.
well, I'm passionate about it just because I saw what it could be, and, what worked back in the day on my soapbox now.
And I think it would be helpful to have somebody who's already on the board, and I think that you're very familiar with the workings of Isla Vista in a way that we probably aren't as familiar with, so.
Also, like, long-term residents are probably
Yeah.
more receptive to you.
Yeah.
It's a great point. All great points.
I'm very excited to have Spencer on it.
Yeah.
All good
I think
points.
you can't say no, Spencer.
And lassoed in.
Gracefully
Okay.
done.
What do we need we vote to form the
Form it.
committee, and then I will. Okay. So does anyone want to make a motion to form the committee?
So moved.
Made by Freeman. Is there a second? Seconded by Hobart. Any public comment on the motion? All right, seeing none, back to the board. Let's do roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Palat,
Yes.
Director Deschler,
Yes.
Director Hobart,
Yes.
Director Sipos,
Yes.
Director Tablet.
Yes.
All right, motion passes, and I will announce the appointment of Director Sipos, Director Hobart, and myself to this committee. And we'll get to work soon. Maybe after we get through finals.
Yeah. Might be a good idea.
Okay, moving to 4.5, formation of ad hoc committee for general manager annual evaluation.
All right, well, it's just the time of the year, so we're on the same schedule as last time, forming a committee now, and then work it out and report at the next one.
Excellent. And I'll share kind of what the process was last year. In my mind, I thought this process worked well, and it seemed like there won't be too much that I think we need to change, which is a questionnaire sort of sent out to each individual director that was then sent back to our legal counsel, who compiled a summary of all the different comments that people had on different areas of leadership and performance. And then that sort of document with all of the comments that were anonymized were then sort of presented to the board when we had a discussion in closed session. So I think that this committee is probably not going to have a ton of work to do, other than just we need to take the lead on it because Jonathan can't take the lead on it. So anyone that is interested in this process.
I'll do it.
All right, Director Toplin. Anyone else?
I'll do it.
Okay. Excellent. Anyone else? Okay.
I can do it. I don't really know what it entails, but we'll find out.
It should be pretty simple, and I'm happy to share the correspondence with the three of you that our legal counsel had from last year, just about what the process was. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Freeman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Toplin. Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor, or sorry, we gotta do roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Director Palat,
Yes.
Director Dashler,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Hobart,
Yes.
Director Seepos, Tom.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, and I have appointed Director Sebas, Director Palat, and Director Topliff to this committee. Okay, reports. Move on to reports from members of the board. Any board members have any reports?
I don't.
Okay, I don't think that I do either. I think I had previously shared about the Associated Students Town Hall that I participated in. Reports from standing and ad hoc committees. We kind of already got the results of the big ad hoc committee that we have. And then anything with the committee on the festival?
No, we do need to meet next week, or I know it's finals week, maybe we'll find like a 30-minute slot while with Maya to talk about some of the changes we need to do.
Okay.
And maybe we can schedule that right after the board meeting.
Sounds good. Report from district council.
I don't have anything to report other than to say I'm happy to work with the ad hoc committee on the evaluation. You all can reach out to me if you on the process.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Jamie. Report from general manager.
Well, we had a board meeting since the last board meeting. So we had our retreat. That was the big focus to get ready and get that done. We did all our board orientation, so we're done with that. But obviously there's always more to do to keep helping our board members succeed. I spent a lot of time getting things, worked on the budget moving forward, getting our revenue presentation for today. We have a lot going on with the community festival that has, as like it always happens in March, just eats up more and more time as you get closer to Deltopia. One exciting news on parking is that we're going to be presenting to the Planning Commission on our parking plan, like the County Planning Commission. They had a conversation about parking a couple of weeks ago that some IV residents spoke in public comment about, and then they became interested in our plan and our study. And so we're going to present to them, and we did identify some old parking and loop fees that the developments in IV, like the loop, paid in. That's a possible source of funding for our parking plans. So that's good. We also found and worked with the county to get them to apply for a grant to fund the sidewalk priorities we listed out that weren't and it didn't get funded, by the active transportation program. But there's another pot of money that Isla Vista hasn't had a lot of access to in the past that we're applying to get sidewalk funding for. And I can ask Maya to highlight the community care project that was this last weekend, the weekend before. It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happened.
It was right after the board retreat.
Yeah.
So the second, right? The community care project was a huge success. We had over 300 volunteers throughout the week, which was fantastic, from different groups ranging from Greek life to clubs on campus to long-term residents to just people who like to garden or who just generally care about the community. It was really beautiful to hear about all the different events. Please go check out the St. Michael's St. Mike's garden expansion. It is absolutely beautiful. So many new garden beds to explore, produce to pick at. And additionally, we have new sand in the volleyball courts in partnership with IVRPD. So that was great. They already started to play a game, I think, after the event. And also a bus mural as well. If you check out our website, it has a map of everything. So you can go look at all the new additions. But yeah, it was a great project, and we're super happy with our partners at Edible Campus Program and Habitat for Humanity. And all of our other partners that we work with.
Excellent. Thank you. Lots of good stuff going on. All right. Any questions from the board?
I just wanted to ask Jonathan actually about the in-lieu parking fee fund that you have discovered.
Yeah.
What would the process be to get our hands on that?
Well, Like the ordinance says that it's the RDA, the redevelopment agency, who's in charge of it. So it's probably the CEO of the county now.
Mhm.
But we did put in the request to use it. And if you look at the purpose of the funds, it's for what we're asking for.
And
which
we
is
put in a request to the CEO?
District 2 office.
And recently?
Yeah. And I mentioned it to the planning and development director as well. And to the planning commission chair. So we're making people aware.
And it sounds like there's a meeting getting scheduled with us and County Public Works to discuss more.
Of the funding for the parking program. Yeah, so we have different plans in place or going at the same time.
Good, thanks.
And I should mention, I do also have a meeting on Tuesday. It was supposed to be today and yesterday got rescheduled, but I'm meeting with a company who would be part of the parking solutions that we would, just to get more accurate costs on what it would, take. So.
Okay, excellent. All good stuff. Future meeting dates and future agenda items. March 25th. Did we want to talk about just a poll of where people are going to be on March 25th to make sure we'll have a quorum in person?
Right. Do we have a?
I might not be at that.
Okay, so we won't have quorum because I think you three will be
Yeah, I'll
remote.
be remote.
So we'll need to reschedule that meeting.
Okay.
I definitely won't be in town.
We could do maybe the first. That's the first Tuesday back from spring break.
Yeah, that works.
April Fool's Day.
So we won't have a meeting.
That's a problem.
I think that works for me. The second thing I was gonna mention was that I wanted to give notice to the board that there's gonna be an item on our agenda to discuss the housing project that Jonathan alluded to that came to the planning commission. And that my understanding is that goes back to the planning commission potentially as early as April 2nd. So we would be getting our comment in pretty late, but we still would get it in.
There will be IV projects on March 26th and April 2nd, but I think the one you're talking about is April 2nd. Yeah.
Do they have a written comment deadline?
I believe that
I don't know right now.
I believe that they do. I
That
think
might be
it's
like the day
Friday,
before the meeting.
the Friday before, for everything that's more than one page.
I mean, you can go present it, but it won't be, we won't need attachments.
Yeah. And maybe what we'll end up doing is whatever comes to the board will be informational, and we'll just have directors can attend the meeting and share their own opinions as they see fit. We'll figure it out, but as long as we know that the date that we're meeting is April 1st, and that's not a joke, we should be good.
Can we have a quorum for April 1st? Or,
Yeah, I should be all in town April 1st. Director Freeman,
Carrie said she had issues. Carrie said she might have.
you have an issue?
Yeah, but I think I can probably cancel out of the other thing.
Okay. Director Deschler, are you still there?
I am here. I can attend.